Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video from the F1 Sim Racing World Championship here in Zandvoort, Netherlands. And yeah, it's a washout once again for qualification 1 in event 2 and seems to always be raining in these qualification sessions. So fun for me, gets to go out on the wet tyres, have a bit of a jiggle, have a bit of fun, drive the car around. But anyway, the title of the video. Yes, I am going to be pushing the rule books to the complete limit and basically taking word for word, quite literally, what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. Even if I don't like it, because I want to drive always fair, I want to leave the space, I want to have a clean race always. Sometimes you have to push the rule book to get the maximum result and show where we can improve for the future. But I'll talk more about that later after the qualification session and once we get into the race. But ultimately, it was due to dry up. At least that's what I was told. So I stayed in the garage waiting to be fitting a dry set of tires. You can see I was quite literally the only person to not be on track. This is quite simply because I got the information that it would be dry at the end. Turns out that it wasn't. So turns out that I have one out lap to get used to these intermediate conditions and do a lap good enough to get me through to Q2. So there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of expectation on this lap, and a lot of learning to do on the out lap as well. Of course, I've done a lot of intermediate and wet practice here on Zandvoort in the build-up to this event, but still, to just go out there and to nail it within one lap and do a lap good enough to be P15 in the world effectively on this track, well, it's going to take some tasks to manage everything. I don't think I'll have a delta even to match myself to, so I'm going to have to spend my out lap warming up the tyres and then starting to push. You can see I start to push the car quite hard in the high-speed corners, just getting a bit of feeling for the grip, what's going to happen with the car, so I can start to build up a mental image of what's happening. So this is really a good advice I can give you at home, is if you're in a situation where you need to learn fast, spend some time on the out lap to basically look at the details and to look what's happening, see what happens when the car is pushed, if it starts to understeer, starts to oversteer, and you can do that in the high-speed corners especially, and it will give you a good mental map of where the grip can or can't be. So now I know that my tyres are coming up into the window that I'm looking for, I can start to focus on trying to understand a little bit of the grip, what the track can be providing me, and ultimately as well looking to get myself a bit of space within everything going on, because yeah, there's 40 seconds, the track is drying, so it is going to be last car across the line is optimal. So yeah, I'm a bit nervous to miss my lap, to be honest, because yeah, I don't have a lap in reserve. So you can see I sneak my way past a few cars with 30 seconds left on the board. I go to the outside line, start up my lap, and now we're flying through the final banking with a car just ahead of me, what was planned, so I could have a reference if I was catching or losing, and I can ultimately try and watch what they're doing as well during my lap. Into turn 1, hard on the brakes, let the car rotate a little bit deep initially, but the front axle picks up nice grip in the middle, squiggling for grip on the exit, through the right hander, keep the car to the middle of the road on the exit if you can, just understeering all the way through. The front is not picking up the traction that I need it to do, although the traction on the rear axle was quite nice out of the first sector, flying up the hill and ultimately throwing the car in full confidence, but going a bit deep early on the power and actually having to lift off the throttle because there was so much tremendous, just horrible understeer in the car, in the balance, in the grip, flying through the middle sector now again, just pushing that front to try and grip up, to find a bit of purchase, traction, grip, confidence, anything right now we're looking for. Just try and squeeze our way through Q1. We have no references. We have no idea if this is a good lap, bad lap, or whatever's happening. All we could do now is throw it into the final sector, hooked up the apexes quite nicely, and I would say I'm a bit closer to that Alpine right now than when I started the lap. Through the final corner, right on the limit. Once again, a lot of understeer as we go through the corner, and now up to 7th gear. Choose the shortest distance to the line, and now we are going to be coming across the line P20 to P8, and that is eventually going to turn into P15 with exactly the same time as Ismail Fassi, and we were just able to squeeze through Q1. And yeah, I was very happy with that lap, given the fact I was told to stay in the garage. I was the only person in the garage. I was the only person not to warm up on the inters, and just to go out there and do a lap good enough to get into Q2, something that I was very, very happy with. But ultimately now it's back to dry conditions, and this is the conditions I was told the end of Q1 should have been. So yeah, now I'm able to get in my flow, now able to put some corners together, be back on the full dry setup, and ultimately pushing my way into the middle sector here with a 7-4 first split. What was quite good, to be honest. I was quite happy with that. Now flying through the middle sector, keep it in 6th gear, lift the throttle, nice on the curb on the inside, a little wiggle as the car settles itself back down through the right-hander, back on the power, set yourself up to the left, open up the track, trail break the corner in, and now on the exit, use as much curb on the first element as possible, and now coming up to the final sector, and now we're going to be on a 7-1-1-8, and that was quite nice for me. A little bit of oversteer between the two corners, but didn't really cost me too much, to be honest, as I was able to use that to swing the car in to the second apex. The final sector has been a bit sloppy though, and hasn't really been optimal. Sector 1, Sector 2 was quite nice, but ultimately Sector 3 a little less than desired, and coming across the line to do a 7-9, but ultimately put me P9 in the first load of laps. It was quite nice, and something that was a nice banker to get on with. So effectively, I need to just do a nice standard first and second sector, improve on the final sector, and we shall be there. We shall be in a good position going to Q3. So let's see how it unfolds. Hard on the brakes, let the car rotate, picked up a nice momentum through turn 1, early on the power, slightly up on the delta, through the right-hander, full speed, compromise the exit, through the banking, hit down as the suspension compresses, you get a load of grip on the exit, quarter of a temp, almost half a temp up on the delta now. This is looking nice, this is looking fast, and now throwing into the middle sector split with a 7-0 first, a little bit wide on the entry, but going to make a bit of that time back on the exit, through the right-hander, missed my apex quite slightly there, but nothing too bad, through the right-hander again, picking up a bit of understeer, hit the marble, and that cost me so much time, and now through the left-hander again, picking up understeer, oversteer, and we're on the exit curve, losing over a tenth, and that was disastrous. That's not what we needed. And now into the final sector. Can we improve? Can we find some time? Can we find some grip? And now we're going to be half a temp down into the final apex. We're going to have to send it in, hope for the best, a little bit wide, early on the power, and ultimately we are going to improve our lap time, but there's no way this is going to be good enough. And we was able to find just under a tenth in the final sector, what should have been good enough to put us through. And to be honest, yeah, was my mistake. I own it. Was my mistake, to be honest. Like I say, was a bit poor, was a bit clumsy on my behalf. So yeah, is for me to own, not to make excuses to something else and to whatever else. Was my fault, and I own it. And now we need to go into the race on a circuit that is very difficult to overtake on and try and make the best of a mediocre situation. We're skipping straight into lap 2. Don't worry, we haven't missed a start. It's because we had multiple restarts in this race, what was very strange. Yeah, apparently it was to do with like the grid not being set correctly or something like this, but I can't fully remember, or at least I don't know the exact reason. So that was the first restart. The second restart, I go for the gap, I send it down the inside, and oh my god, what an overtake. No. So this is going to be the actual race start now, and we are going to be back in P15, how it should have been on lap 1, on the intermediate tyres, lights out, and away we go here in Zandvoort. Getting a good start now, pulling to the inside, trying to find our way past Patrick Seafoss down the inside. You can see down the inside as well was Ruben as well, so we have to leave space on the inside. Oh, that's Jake, my apologies. Jake sending it down the inside, so nothing gained, nothing really lost through turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. What can we do in turn 4? Looking for the outside line, trying to pick up a bit of traction. Ultimately, Ruben down the inside, but nothing he could do there on the on the ERS, running up the hill now, trying to look for the switch back and look for the inside line. Cuts off by Patrick Seafoss up ahead. Cars side by side. Carnage can ensue right ahead of us here. So you can see we brake early, go for the switchback, leave ourselves on the inside line if we want to take it, and we think about looking down the inside of Patrick, but nothing to do there. But yeah, now ultimately settling down as the lap 1 starts to unfold and the opportunities start to dwindle as mistakes will become less and less as the lap opens up. As I was talking about at the start of the video, the driving standards. So yeah, the rule book says we could do some stuff as we just got punted. I don't actually remember that happening, to be honest. So we just got punted in that corner, and now through the right-hander. And now we're going to have Jake all over the back of us. And like I say, what you're going to see now is something that I'm not proud of. It's not something I like to do. It's not, I don't want to push cars off the track. but the rulebook allows it, as we saw in Austria, and you just have to do what the rulebook allows you to do. So Jake goes around the outside, and yeah, I'm not proud of this. I really don't like this, to be honest. But the steward said, no further action. This was allowed. You could do this. I made a mistake starting lap 2, ending lap 2, I should say, and basically going to do the same thing, to be honest. I left a bit more space on this time, but yeah, it's not something I'm happy with. It's not something I'm proud of to drive this way, not at all. It's not a driving standard I'd like to have. But you can see Jake goes around the outside, and we're just wheel banging on the exit, quite simply, because again, the rulebook allowed it in this situation. As I say in my previous videos, they did fix it. They did fix it for Event 3 and tighten up the rulebook in a really good way going forward. But also what you're going to see with Patrick coming up now is, yeah, I could cut this out the video. I could pretend it didn't happen. I could make some rubbish excuses and go, oh yeah, this and this and this, but no. The rulebook allowed it. I have to be honest, and I want to be honest with everyone watching this video out of pure respect for you and myself as well. The rulebook says we can do something, so I took advantage of that, and it's something I'm not proud of. You're going to see this overtake. I'm definitely not proud of this. I just sent it in, and you can see the rulebook, and we got told no further action on this as well. Literally, no further action. So, yeah, like I say, I could cut this out the video. I could do some nonsense, to be honest. I could make some excuses. I could say so many things and, let's say, disguise this stuff and pretend it didn't happen even. But no, I want to be honest. I'm not proud of those overtakes. Not at all. I did apologize to the teams and the drivers after, so I apologized to Alpine, I apologized to Jake as well. And they understood. They understood that it was just racing within what the rulebook allowed. So I'm grateful for that for sure, to not have a bad feeling, a bad emotion with people. But yeah, moving on to the rest of the race, the driving standards does get better. So for that, I'm happy. But yeah, ultimately cracking on with the rest of the race here on lap 7, up into P14 ultimately in this race right now. Lap 9, it was starting to get closer and closer and closer to the dry conditions, so I was starting to build up my battery more and more and set myself up for the rest of the race. Ultimately able to close into the cars ahead, and you can see now, I was having, well, you can't hear it, but I was having a debate with my engineer if we go to the mediums or if we go to the hard tyre. I got told the medium tyre would not last until the end of the race, so ultimately we decided to go to the hard compound tyre. Spoiler alert, was not a great decision, but ultimately you'll see how that plays out in the rest of the race. But right now, provisionally P8, as we were one of the cars to go longer in this situation. There were still plenty of cars to go even longer than us, but we definitely went longer than some people who were undercutting straight away. I think it was a good thing. I think it was a benefit, as ultimately the DRS has now been enabled, and that is a good indication to when is a good time to switch over. So I feel like we got the lap pretty much perfect for the crossover period and was able to get into the pit lane right now and to be putting on a hard set of compound tyres. What is going to be very difficult to warm up in this situation and to get going. And there's going to be people on the in-laps on intermediate tyres right now, and ultimately we need to nail this out-lap as well on a very slippy, treacherous, dangerous surface as well, and we are going to be 9/10 behind Thomas Ronha, Lucas Blakely, who have their hard compound tyres up to the temperature window, John Evans on the medium compound tyres behind us, and we're going to have to burn quite a lot of battery on this outlap and drive to the complete limit of the grip to make sure and ensure that we can at least maintain track position, and if not gain some track position as well. Ultimately coming towards the end of the lap now, you can see Ismail was about 8 ahead of us. We're able to get around the outside of him, and now we're up into provisionally P13 in this race, and now we are right up behind Jarno Opmeer. Although we're on the hard compound tyres right now, we do have one lap of tyre temp advantage, and now lap 16, you can see we're all over the back of him, but now this is where our advantage starts to dwindle and starts to go away from us. And it was basically, the hard tyres were slower until lap 28, and after lap 28 the mediums were faster. So it was literally me trying to hang on at this point, not waste too much of my battery, and give myself the opportunity to attack later in the race, whereas for the mediums, it was the complete opposite scenario. A lot of their race strategy will be overtaking right now and trying to get so much track position that they don't really need to focus on defending later on in the race, but ultimately we need to try and maximize our track position. You see Jarno going up the inside of Yoni Tormina just up ahead. You can see you have quite a lot of battery and a lot of Ismail Fassi in our mirrors, putting a lot of pressure on our shoulders right now, because he knows if he wants his strategy to work, if he wants his tyres to work, he needs to get a move on. And I know if I want my strategy and my tyres to work later on, I need to defend for my life. You can see Ismail here on lap 18, all over the back of us. We're having to use quite a lot of battery here to defend, squeezing a little bit as well. You can see just dive into the inside, not to look for Jarno, but purely to defend from Ismail, as right now we also have Jake popping up near in our mirrors. And Jake is doing a sensational race, I have to say as well, and you'll see more of him later on. But right now you can see on the exit, I had to make a decision here. I knew Ismail was going to use a lot of battery here, so I decided to let him go alongside, use my battery once he was side by side, and try to trick him to thinking a false sense of security, go around the outside of turn 1, see if we can just about hang on side by side. He used up the racing room, so I'm grateful for that. And now around the outside, we slightly touched the tyres. More my fault, to be honest, than his. He didn't do anything wrong, it was just my fault there. We touched the tyres and now he has got the position. But it was a really strange situation for me there, because I knew if I used all of my battery on that straight, I would be sitting bait for every other driver behind me. So I had to make a decision if I was willing to compromise one position to try and defend more and attack more later in the race, and that was the risk and reward I was willing to take. But you can see Jake all over the back of us right now with phenomenal pace, sending it up the inside, and yeah, doing a really, really great job, I have to say, especially because he was like P16, P17, roughly around here, and he goes up the inside, brave on the brakes. You can see we give him the room and look for the switchback, but he got it stopped phenomenally, calmly, precisely, and did a really nice job on that overtake there. So yeah, he was down in like the P17 roughly, and he's already back up to P12 on lap 19 of this race, starting lap 20. Soon to be P11 actually, as Longue had the unfortunate glitch. From what I understand was a glitch anyway, that it selected the wrong tyre in the pit lane or something like this, but I don't know exactly, so you'll have to ask him / Ferrari about that. But speaking of coming under attack, John Evans right up behind me, and you can see Johnny Tormila and Jarno Opnet are flashing their batteries up ahead, and to me that was like gold. I was so happy to see this, because I was able to be in a position now that I had 57% battery, and the same as I did in Spa, I'm in a really strong position to fight as this race unfolds right now, and to have a really strong end to this race. So keeping my head calm, keeping it tactical, and playing the long game seems like it's going to be generating some more opportunities for me right now. I knew that Yoni had way less battery than me. I knew I had 70% battery starting the straight. So holding the battery down, looking down the inside, he's going to defend. We go right up against the wall on the inside, late on the brakes, leaving the room, and you can see just slipping up the inside. Yeah, I forgot that happened, and again, my apologies. Not the driving standards I would want. But yeah, the rulebook allows it, so sorry. But yeah, again, I hold my hands up. I could throw this stuff out the edit, I could pretend it didn't happen, I could erase it from the history of this video, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be always open, I'm going to be always honest with my, let's say, strengths, weaknesses, failures, faults, good points, bad points. I'm always going to be open and honest with you on this channel, within me itself as well, within my personality, if we go up the inside of Thomas to get into the point playing position. So yeah, I could hide all this stuff, but I'm not going to. So at least I hope that you guys appreciate that, and yeah, I hope the backlash for these overtakes won't be too much, but I understand if it would be, because yeah, to be honest, the driving standards there were not too great, even though I didn't get a penalty for any of them, to be honest, and was all put down as no further action / racing incident. Ultimately now though, coming onto the final lap of the race, and these hard compound tyres should now be giving an advantage compared to Ismail up ahead, but unfortunately we've had to use quite a lot of battery battling with other cars, so it's going to be very difficult to get on terms with Ismail and to get close to him as the middle sector unfolds. But nevertheless, we're going to be trying our best here on the final lap of the race to maximise our opportunity, maximise our scenario, and try to get an extra point or two in this race. You can see, flicking through my tyre temps, engine temperatures, my tyre wear for one last time in this race. Through the middle sector, open up the the corner. Hard back on the throttle, 12% on the battery. We're actually green on the delta, so this is the fastest we've ever gone for the first sector all race long. Through the right-hander, just not able to get close enough to Ismail right now. Half a second behind. He's clearly doing a good job managing his tyres. You can see Lucas up ahead with flashing his battery, so now we have 17%. So we're going to be 2 tenths up on our delta. So you can see the pace on this final lap by everyone, in fact, is really phenomenal. It's a really high pace. But ultimately, we're not going to be able to do enough to capitalize and make up some extra positions out of the final corner. And ultimately, it's going to be a P15 to P10 again, so making up 5 places in this race as well. And to be honest, yeah, good point, good situation, and was able to recover a result from a qualifying that was quite disastrous, to be honest. So for that, I'm happy. And yeah, I can say, although I've talked about it 10 billion times, yeah, the racing standards were fixed for Event 3, and the stewards were able to correct what was happening. So for that, I appreciate it, and appreciated it, especially to fix it for Event 3. And with all that being said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think about it all down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Glad to see you. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.